Hey, what's up, Steelers Nation? I'm your host, Tyler Feldman. The Steelers beat the Patriots 21-14. How about that? A win on the road. You love to see it.
And I'm Ben Bobick. Doesn't have to be pretty, man, but a win's a win.
And I'm Chris Carter. Cam Hayward washed? Who said that?
And I'm Wayne Gandy. What a great win. An ugly Pittsburgh Steelers win. Here we go on the Pittsburgh Steelers Show, SWAT Show, live.
Wave those terrible towels. It's the Steelers Squad. Everything Pittsburgh Steelers every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Steel City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. From the steel curtain to the next generation, the Steelers Squad Show starts now.
Yes, it does. This is the Steelers Squad Show right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. Again, I'm your host, Tyler Feldman, repping the black and gold here in Austin, Texas. And joining me on this live post-game reaction show, former Steelers offensive lineman Wayne Gandy, lifetime Steelers fan Ben Bobick, and Christopher Carter, host of the Locked On Steelers Daily Podcast, as well as reporting for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Guys, 21-14, it wasn't pretty, but it ended in a pretty fashion with Aaron Rodgers connecting with Calvin Austin, little quarter pocket, a beautiful play to give the Steelers the lead with about 2 minutes left. Chris, I'll start with you. Hey, they got the win. It didn't have to be pretty, but I do feel like there were a lot of positives to come out of a victory like this one.
I don't get the point of a but. They just beat that. They won the game. They won the game with 5 first turnovers. The defense, we've been saying, defense, where are you at for 2 weeks? They show them, they shut it down. TJ Watt getting 2 sacks. Where's TJ Watt? 2 sacks, making a big impact. Where's Cam Hayward? Why is he asking for money? He gets the tip pass that leads to the interception, forces a fumble at the goal line, resulting in another turnover, gets another sack himself. Derek Harmon comes back. He gets a sack. This team fought tooth and nail in a game where I do think that the offense needs to clean. I think that they're starting to learn they need to pass to set up the run. But this was a game you walked into New England, a place they have not won since 2008. And they found a way to get a win against a team that was sacking the quarterback the most, that was stuffing the run the third best in the NFL. There were a lot of things. I picked the Steelers to lose this game. Them winning, big time upset in my point. I know that the bookies had the Steelers as slight favorites, but to me, this had a lot of matchup problems for the Steelers, and they were able to negate several of them throughout this game.
Chris, if I didn't say but, we wouldn't have got you that animated about the victory. Come on, I'm teeing you up there. You're welcome. Wayne, what are your thoughts on this victory on the road? A tough one.
And that's the thing. When you go on the road, the only thing counts is whether you won the game. It's the mindset you have to take on the road. You're going to get the team's best shot when you play them. We felt like this is going to be a physical, ugly game when you go against a Mike Vrabel team. It's hanging in the balance. There's always some play that needs to be made, and the Steelers were making it at a key time. The defense flying around, missing 3 or 4 starters. Derek Harmon, thank you for coming back to the team, adding some force up front. Guys playing that. Patrick Queen, a little questionable during the week with, I think, a rib injury or something like that, playing downhill. And I'm just excited. When you go on the road as a player, you really are just trying to win the game. You're really that way all the time. But on the road, you're just hoping at the end of the game, you're the victor. Who does it, all the turnovers. I was just excited to see guys engaged, and the veteran leadership was playing a role today.
Patrick Queen leading all Steelers with 10 total tackles. Hey, Joe Plush saying, how we had 5 turnovers and a turnover on downs and still only won by 7 points is beyond comprehension. I will frickin' take it. Ben, I will take it too. How about you?
Yeah, man, I was ready to have a completely different conversation probably about 45 minutes ago, man. I had a stress ball and I was throwing it at the wall. I'm like, just They just can't do it. It's just too predictable. Blah, 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 and then boom, it just changes on the dime, and that's why we love the game, and that's what we live for. But listen, we talked about it on Wednesday. We said there was going to be some growing pains with the offensive line and these guys playing together. They might have to win a few ugly just to get it going. Boom, look no further than today. It wasn't pretty, but a win is a win in this league, especially like Wayne mentioned on the road. And I think the offensive line showed some spurts, especially the run game. Jalen Warren was running pretty hard. They look good early. They got to figure out that middle. They'll clean all that up during the week. But winning games on the road and just winning football games are what they're paid to do. And it didn't have to be pretty today. But yeah, the defense showing up, forcing some turnovers in key moments too. Obviously, you love to see. But man, we said they might have to win a few ugly, and we'll frickin' take it.
Yeah, we will. Hey, Chris, since you were on the positive train to start off the show, we thank you for taking us on that positive ride. 5 sacks, the turnovers. It was what you wanted to see from the defense at this point of the season, because I feel like this was a confidence-building defensive performance. Yes, New England isn't all that hot and flashy, but at the same time, you go on the road, and it's not a terrible New England team. They get the job done while forcing some big plays defensively. And moving forward, that's what we need to continue to see from the Steelers team.
No, agreed. I think that the Steelers defense, when you look at what they were able to do in this game, yes, they gave up some bad third down conversions in this game, but you saw them finding answers in big moments. And I think that was the huge part of this was, there were times where they were able to pick on Chuck Clark, in the slot, because that's not where you typically want him, but that's where you kind of got to have him because you're missing guys right now. Getting Cole Holcomb out in space on a 4th and 1, you expect him to make that play there, and then other things. But the thing is that when you're giving and throwing punches, you're giving and taking punches in a game, you have to be able to punch back. And several times this team they did not buckle. Mike Tomlin, I could see after Aaron Rodgers threw that interception, he was yelling, but he wasn't yelling at his offense. He was yelling at his defense, keep them points off the field. And they did. And just it's things like that where they were able to prepare in the right spots. They were able to win in the right spots, and they deserve credit for that. A lot of people want to go at the Steelers defense when they have bad weeks. That they had a pretty good week this week. I know that there were some big plays allowed here and there, but I think the Steelers defense may be figuring a few things out. Also, Derek Harmon, not a bad first game in the NFL after coming back off his injury.
Not at all. Wayne, when you look at what Derek Harmon brought to the table, yes, New England outgained the Steelers, at least on the offensive side of the ball, 369 total yards to 203. But we're trying to find those little moments. And Derek Harmon had a couple little moments that, as a young guy coming in first game, you kind of like seeing that here in week 3.
Yeah, you need a match to go along with Hayward inside. Football is played in tandems. You need 2 receivers. You need 2 rush ends. You need 2 guys in the middle. Well, having one, we can figure out a way to neutralize that one person. And when Derek Harmon plays the way he plays, it allows Cam Hayward to be 29 again, 31 again, because he doesn't have to sit there and see double teams all day, because now we got to figure out which one of these guys are hot. So I was very happy to see him, not just for a depth part, but just to be out there showing some toughness. Probably was not 100%, but willing to go out there and put it on the line, which that is the Steelers' way. And the thing with, when we talk on a lot of times on these podcasts and interviews, we forget the other team gets a check. Everybody gets paid. These matchups are hairline fractures apart. There is no big, this is not Oklahoma versus Kent State. This is 2 pro teams where everybody's getting a check. Everybody's trying to win and keep their jobs. And that's why I can't emphasize, when you go on the road, this is what you want. This is the Steeler football I was indoctrinated in. Find a way to win the game in 60 minutes. Some kind of way, some quarter's going to go your way. We're going to find and work the hot thing. And I just thought the way the Steelers get it, it's almost like they had seen something on tape. They knocking the ball out. One or 2 fumbles, you can call it coincidence. 4 or 5 seems like some film study that they caught a little idea that the Patriots don't really carry the ball properly. and guys you kept seeing yanking at the ball. I just think that it was a good quality win, as we talked about on Wednesday. You have to go out and beat the teams you should beat. And this was a team that the Steelers should beat, and they did.
And let's be realistic. This version of the Pittsburgh Steelers, I don't see blowing anyone out, having the cleanest game week in, week out. So the Steelers way, as we know it right now, this is what, for the Steelers to watch a win, this is how we will have to digest the Steelers' victories this season. I don't think they're ever going to have that perfect game or that, wow, they really dominated. But if they can keep doing this, Ben, then they can make something of this season.
Absolutely, man, and especially early in the season, like we talked about after the loss last week. Hey, it's early September, and then we chat even more about just this team. A lot of new pieces. They got to find their way. They got to find their rhythm. They got to find their identity a little bit, and sometimes you have to find that along the way, because you could, your team, what you want to be, you have the blueprint of what you want to be, but going out there and doing it, two different things. So I think there's a lot of positives to take away from it, just finding ways to win. These are the wins that you look back on when you get deep in the season and you're like, okay, that not only is it a win on the road, a win against an AFC team, all those things kind of come into play, but it's just, the Steelers way is evolving, if you will. And sometimes it's got just finding ways. And so I think it's just a great positive to be able to go out there and get it done on the road, get it done ugly while everything's still figuring itself out, and just start stacking these wins as much as you can early on in the season.
Chris, as we begin to wrap up this first segment on the show, what is one or two key takeaways that we haven't talked about yet that stood out to you about the Steelers beating the Patriots here today, 21-14?
When the offense gets the ball in the red zone, it's a touchdown. 3 out of 3 on this game. I think they were 4 out of 4 in week 1. They were 1 out of 2 last week, and the one was the one where Calvin Austin tipped the ball out of the way of Pat Fryermuth's hands, and ended up being an interception. And a lot of it's just Aaron Rodgers just taking what's there. And I think that's going to be a huge factor for this team. Like Aaron Rodgers in this game, and we'll talk more about it in a bit, 139 yards through the air. You don't think that's good, and it's not a good overall stat line. But when he was seeing things, it was efficient. And I think that the Steelers spent a lot of time trying to establish the running in this game, and we'll talk more about that. But being able to capitalize when you get in the red zone is huge. How many years have you seen spoiled opportunities because the Steelers just couldn't punch the ball in the end zone after they got a big play or a big penalty? That doesn't happen anymore. And if that's something that carries throughout the rest of the game, or the rest of the season, that's going to be a major factor that wins Steelers some close games.
Aaron Rodgers passing Brett Favre for 4th most passing touchdowns in NFL history, 509 and 510 with that one late to Austin. DK Metcalf catching the first one. 14 points off 5 takeaways. It was a weird conundrum for me because, yes, there were a lot of positives, but, yes, it wasn't the prettiest. So you put that all together. Wayne, Aaron Rodgers, that many touchdown passes. That's not something I want to gloss over here today. 15 years in the league, that's pretty special, and you can see why the way in which he throws the ball and runs the offense, why he's been able to be so successful in throwing the football over the course of his career, huh?
Yeah, he's been a great chess master when you watch him play. To me, one of the things that sometimes with quarterbacks is just the idea of their ability to remember and to replace your movement with the throw. That throw for Jonnu Smith on that early pass down the seam. What a beautiful timing route. And he dropped it in there. It just shows you why he is such a legend and a guy that's won 4 MVPs. He has such great touch on the ball and anticipation. The ball never seems like it's away from the receiver. It seems like it's right in the perfect place. And he's just reading the defense. And he's just had a stellar career. Some different things off the field or attitude-wise. People seem like they don't ever want your own personality to spill into life. But, we as players, we have our own personality. It doesn't always go along with what you think. But on the field, I don't ever think a player has ever questioned his intensity of being excellent. And he played a great game when given time today, throwing the ball in those opportunities, dropping it in there to Austin. It's just a Hall of Fame quarterback. Sometimes he shows you like, oh, okay, are you sure you want to retire? He shows you those plays and that's how you play a long time. When you can be this far along in your career and still have those reminding moments of why I was so great early on.
Aaron Rodgers finishing 16 of 23, 139 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, that one bad interception to start the second half, connecting with 6 different receivers. Ben, again, not that big-time box score, 300-yard passing game for Rodgers, but passing Brett Favre in the touchdown passes category, and then also getting the job done late, and that's why you bring him in, right?
Absolutely, man. And you know what? That, and then you think about when the game was on the line, they're late. They get the ball and they get pretty good field position. It's like, okay, because what was great about that drive too, obviously, was them scoring a touchdown. They took a lot of time off the clock. Really good clock management on that final drive. Made the Patriots burn a few timeouts. Obviously, scoring the touchdown ended up being a major factor because it forced them to try to score a touchdown in time, not just getting field goal range. So I think it was just great game management by him, and that's what he does, man. When the game's on the line, you find ways to win. And I think on that Austin touchdown, I mean, he looks up, he knows exactly where he's going with the football. He knows exactly where he needs to put it, and it's right there on a rope to Calvin Austin. Credit to Calvin Austin. You know, when his number was called there, he made the play, because that's not you still got to go out there and make the play, and he did. He get his feet in. It was a really good touchdown catch on his end as well. But absolutely, dude. And I think if he just gets once this offensive line really starts to hopefully roll and gives him a little bit more time, it's only going to get better, because you give a guy like that time, look out, because there are just ways that he could pick defenses apart as we get deeper into the season, as long as they keep him healthy and all that good stuff. But I mean, I think that's what it comes down to is the longevity of him playing, passing Brett Favre is a testament to him. And then also just when the game's on the line, man, get the ball to 8, let him cook. And that's exactly what he did today.
I'm glad you mentioned the offensive line, because when we come back here on the Steelers Squad Show, recapping the Steelers' 21-14 road win over New England, we'll be going to Wayne's World, hear what Wayne Gandy, 15-year veteran in the NFL on that offensive line, will get his thoughts on the trenches and how the Steelers look in that area. That's next right here on the Steelers Squad Show on the Locked On Podcast Network. But first, today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in. With football back, Prize Picks is the easiest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes, all in less than 60 seconds. I've been playing Prize Picks lately, and it's such a fun way to stay locked in for the season. It's quick, easy, honestly my favorite way to follow along every Sunday. And I love checking the projections, like Josh Allen for more or less than 270 passing yards, or Saquon Barkley for more or less than 1 rushing touchdown. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after you first play your $5 play. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, back here on the Steelers Squad Show on the Locked On Podcast Network. Ben Bobick, Christopher Carter, Wayne Gandy. It is time now, as we look back on this 21-14 Steelers win over the Patriots, to head inside Wayne's World. And Wayne, let's get your overall thoughts on this offensive line that continues to look like they're getting more and more in sync, of course, when they play more and more real live football game action together.
Well, a concerted effort today by Arthur Smith, the offensive coordinator. I feel at least we got over 20 attempts rushing the ball. It was good to continue regardless of what the yardage is saying. Jaylen Warren, I think, got about 18, 19, maybe 20 touches running the ball. I felt like they were going to have to get around 30, 32 to win the game. But, we can't, like I said, go back in a time machine and go back to the preseason and play them more. So we can only work from where we are. And I think the pass blocking was a little more sure today. Guys was staying on protection pretty good, but 0 sacks. But when you go to running the ball, 26 rushes, 64 yards, 2.5 average, it's still something that has to be worked on. And until they continue to do it, like they did today, the attitude will continue to grow. Keep putting pressure on the guys up front to produce and understand they're going to have to produce in that way. But I did like the adjustment. They got the ball out to the edges, and that might be how the quick pass game, it might have to be what they use once they see that it's not clicking up front. But not a big step forward as far as yardage, but I do like that at least it seemed like early on they were going to try to establish the run, and they know they need to run the ball to have more offensive success.
Chris, hearing that, do you see along the same lines regarding the growth of this offensive line, the baby steps maybe that they took today?
I do. I saw several really good blocks of this game in key moments. I thought Broderick Jones had a much better game than last game, and I thought his last game was a much better game than week one. So he's making steady progress. Some mistakes from Troy Fautanu, but for a young offensive line, I thought that they had a decent day. I think part of the problem with the run game, like you look at the overall averages and Jaylen Warren averaging 2.6 yards per carry, that's not something that you want. But I look at how things were getting set up, and I felt like part of what happened was after that, the Steelers' opening drive, they came out and they ran the ball right at the Patriots. And I think the Patriots weren't fully expecting that. Jaylen Warren ripped off his first 3 runs. He goes for 9, 11, and 6 yards, and goes for another 4 before eventually Aaron Rodgers hits. Eventually they handed off to Kenneth Gainwell. So the only time that they even threw the ball was really the defensive pass interference when they threw it to Darnell Washington. I think what they saw there that drive, they were like, okay, we might be able to run the ball on these guys. And then the Patriots like, okay, wait a minute, we're going to tee off on the run game and not let you guys do that. And for the rest of the game, I think Arthur Smith was trying to see what he could get with this offensive line. But then you saw on that last drive, they come out and there's still plenty of time on the clock when they get the ball. And that's part of what made it a really good drive was they got the ball with 7 minutes and 41 seconds left. They gave the ball back with a little over 2 minutes with that after the touchdown drive. But they came out. What's the first thing they did? They hit a slant to Calvin Austin. All of a sudden, now the Patriots are saying, wait a minute, okay, we can't just sit over the run. Then it's a 6-yard run for Jaylen Warren. And then you see everything else start to open up. I think what the Steelers have to do right now is they have to pass to set up the run. They have good, athletic, young offensive linemen who are continuing to learn, but they're not the kind of good offensive line that can just run the ball regardless of the situation and win. So I think a lesson to learn here on offense, again, you try to learn from your wins just as much as you learn from your losses, is maybe for now at least trust Aaron Rodgers and this passing offense to figure some things out on the earlier downs that can set up easier runs as the game goes on so that teams aren't jumping all over the line of scrimmage. Because honestly, I tweeted this out, I thought it was just as much Jaylen Warren's fault that he wasn't getting yards in the middle of this game that it was Najee Harris's last year. A lot of people didn't like Najee Harris for whatever reason, but several times I'm like, they're jumping all over the run. They teams just don't want the Steelers to run the ball. I thought the same thing happened in this game. The biggest difference was eventually Aaron Rodgers was able to open it up with the passing game a little bit. So pass to set up the run might be a big lesson to learn here for the Steelers.
We talked earlier this week on Wednesday's preview show how can we get Jaylen Warren to eclipse 100 yards, maybe get the running backs room to eclipse 100 yards. Again, 3 weeks, and we haven't really seen that. Ben, you're wearing Patriots red. If there were some blue and white stripes on that, I think you were playing for New England here today. This is the Steelers squad show. I just needed to point that out just really briefly. Yeah. But is it an offensive line thing for you, Ben, or is it just the running game just can't get there quite yet? Because the start of the game, the Steelers, like Chris said, running it right down the throat. Warren had a couple of nice runs. He was shifty, had his body moving all over to find the gaps and whatnot, and then it kind of just died down a little bit.
Yeah, I think it was just definitely adjustments made by the Patriots, like to what Chris just said. Just kind of listen, we're not going to let you run like that. But what I really like though, because we chatted about it on Wednesday, what we wanted to see the offensive line have that attitude and just take it to them, and they were doing that on those first 2 drives that resulted in the touchdowns. I mean that when Warren was running, you could see the push they were getting there. You could see the holes open up, and you start to get it. When you're running the ball well, as a viewer, when you're looking, and right when the running back maybe gets the ball right before it, you're looking and you're like, oh man, he's got room. When you're seeing that, that's sort of what was happening certainly on that first drive for the Steelers. But yeah, I think it's a little bit of everything. I think it may need to be some in-game adjustments there. I think the Steelers offense was almost a little bit too predictable there in the middle of the game. But I love what Chris was saying about, maybe sometimes using that pass to set up the run, because they're really capable of that, especially with Aaron Rodgers and with the quick trigger. We could utilize his arms, maybe whether it be with slants or even if it's just, we talk about just guys going 8 yards, turning around, finding spots. And if a team were to be playing his own defense, find those soft spots and just hit them just for 7-8 yards, because then that makes them respect it. And that's where you kind of open things up. Complementary football, really. I know it's a different term for it, but because it's, offense, defense, but just, kind of helping each other out and whatnot. But I like the attitude they had with the running game a bit today. I just love Jaylen Warren's style too. He's a downhill type of runner. And he bounces off guys, so it was good to see it kind of at least have some success tonight. But just to say it, it is Sunday, so that's why I'm wearing my red. Just to be clear.
How could I forget? Little Tiger Woods Sunday red. Thanks for clarifying. And luckily
just
the Steelers
throw it out there.
Luckily the Steelers had that Sunday red attitude late in this ball game. Jay's asking here, why aren't they using tight ends? And it was a quiet game for the tight ends, a talented room. And Wayne, you've talked about Jonnu Smith, Darnell Washington, Pat Freiermuth. They've got a bevy of options. Was it scheme for you, Wayne, or was it just that's the nature of how this game played out, that the tight ends weren't utilized as much?
Well, I think that, great tight end usage comes with the ability to be able to run the ball. Unless you have those unicorns, like Travis Kelce, those tweeners that are just, part receiver that can get open. Most tight ends their biggest catches is that we've established a run. I can get behind those linebackers. They're going to buy on the fake. I can get out into the flat, things like that. I think this is evolving. As I can't say enough, this unit didn't do a lot in the preseason. And these first couple of games, that's how I view it. I'm just trying to get through this first month and see if we can get 3-1, where we growing together. Everybody's learning each other. And I do believe that a lot of success in the red zone is because as a coordinator, defensive coordinator, with those kind of talented receivers at tight end, Washington with his height, Freiermuth with his, ability to make the big catch, Jonnu Smith in the middle. I think that's something that when defensive coordinators see them in the red zone, tight ends are the best option. But they're not just the best option to go to, they're the best option to try to stop. So I feel like that's going to grow. I guess I'm right now with this team, I'm trying to figure out who they are. And I think Chris said it good when he said maybe we're going to have to get off of this idea that we're going to create the old Franco Harris run game, because maybe we have, and that's what coaches get paid for, to accept that we don't have that component. So let's move to the next page of what we can do. So we're hoping we can establish the run, but another week or two of this, we have to start figuring out other ways to move the ball. And usually that's the quick passing game or use the tight ends.
Chris, what do the Steelers need to do to find their identity this season?
I think they just need to keep fighting and working. I don't think that this is some magical button that they got to press. Like in this game, like you're seeing them try to feel some things out. Like you could kind of feel Arthur Smith just trying everything he could to get a run game going and seeing like at the end of the game, you can say, all right, we need to win this game. Let's let Aaron take over a bit, give him some throws and still work the run back in. But again, after that first throw hit, the run game opened back up because the Patriots couldn't jump all over it. And again, that's the number 3 rushing defense that you were up against in this game. So I think that they're figuring some things out. I think they also just need to get healthy, like on defense right now, even though the defense played well enough to force 5 turnovers and a turnover on downs in this game. You can see just the obvious spots where like, hey man, it would be nice to have this guy here and this guy here. Like, Nick Herbig gets beat on a tight spot on a 4th down. That's where Alex Highsmith would normally be, and he's much better at working in that kind of a space than Herbig is in those moments. And then you look Joey Porter in some of the spots where like James Pierre was getting beat on a third down. So I think that once this team gets healthy on defense again, and other guys like Derek Harmon get into a full swing of things, then we'll get to see what this defense is really like when it's humming. Because I still don't think we've seen that yet. I still think that there's some busted mistakes here and there, and those things happen. One thing I think that happens is whenever fans watch their team in a vacuum, they assume that every other team in the NFL always plays great and never makes mistakes. And they're like, oh, why do we have busted coverages all the time? Man, look around the NFL. It happens every single week to somebody. And, I think that what often determines how good of a team you are is how well you bounce back from those mistakes, because mistakes are going to happen. And in this game, they bounced back tremendously several times, and that's where I think that the Steelers' identity can be right now is they're opportunistic. You look at the Jets game, they took advantage of an opportunity with the passing offense that many people didn't think was even there. Last week they weren't opportunistic. They had the tip pass in the end zone that spoiled a red zone opportunity, and they had Caleb Johnson just handing over 7 points to the Seahawks there on the kickoff. This week they got 5 turnovers. And so, and they capitalized on all 3 red zone opportunities. If they are an opportunistic team that can take advantage of those things, when they start to put other things together and that chemistry does build, they look like they'd be a team that's ready to pounce on times where their opportunities are presented to them. So I think kudos to them for this win. The Vikings had a big blowout win over the Bengals. So that's going to set up a really interesting week 4 matchup next week in Ireland.
Yeah, the Vikings 48, Cincinnati 10, just an absolute steamroll by Minnesota at home. Yeah, next week, Dublin, Ireland. Maybe the Steelers will get some luck of the Irish and figure out a way to take down a very good Minnesota team. We're going to be talking about that game later on in the show. Coming up next, though, here on the Steelers Squad Show, we are talking winners and losers, honing in on who we really liked from their efforts today and who we thought could be a lot better. That's next right here on the Steelers Squad Show. But first, today's episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's also about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points up on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward was courtesy of Aaron Rodgers and Calvin Austin. The duo hooking up on that beautiful corner pocket, 17-yard touchdown pass. Perfect placement. That left shoulder with about 2 minutes left of the ball game. That broke that 14-all tie and gave the Steelers a 21-14 lead. Huge play, the key play to giving the Steelers a big road win over New England, 21-14. So when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Back here on the Steelers Squad Show on the Locked On Podcast Network, a reminder, Monday through Friday, you can listen to Christopher Carter's Locked On Steelers Daily Podcast, where he brings in great insight with all the guests that come on his show that cover the Steelers every single day of the week. So a reminder to make sure, I'm sure you all are watching Chris Carter Monday through Friday. Hey, guys, let's talk winners and losers. Wayne, I'll start with you. Let's start with the winners. Who was one guy for the Steelers today that won in his specific position and what he needed to do?
Oh, Cam Hayward for me on that defensive line, showing you why he is the key for that defense. His ability to take up double teams when he gets those single blocks, the dominance that he can bring to the game. He's always just as good as TJ Watt. He's some kind of way always affecting the game, whether it's a knockdown pass in a crucial moment, a tip ball. He's pushing the pocket with a quarterback, can't step up. That's why those guards off the edge, he can't step up and he can't step back. They call that a sack. Did I make a rhyme right there? That's Chris is not smiling, but
I think Chris is typing stories. He's probably doing 18 things in his head right now.
But I just, him, and now with Harmon there, but with Cam Hayward, he's my winner today.
All right, Cam Hayward. Yeah, he had that really nice strip. I'm like, who got that ball? Who poked that ball out? Looked at the replay 3 times, and it was 97. So it was nice to see Cam Hayward disrupt the Patriots offense throughout this game. All right, Chris, who was your winner here for the Steelers today?
Could be a few guys. Cam Hayward's obviously like the big one. I think you look at that. His contributions in the turnover department is big. I'm gonna go with Brandon Echols though, because Brandon Echols caught the Cam Hayward tip pass for the interception that spoiled a red zone opportunity, and then later on had that huge tackle on the forced turnover on downs. I also thought he was the one who got interfered on the defensive pass that set up the Patriots' first touchdown of the game. When you go back and you look at the replay, they said that he grabbed his arm. You could see him with his arm out, and the receiver like pulls him down. And I'm like, at first live, I was like, well, he got caught for it. And then on the replay, I'm like, no, it's the other way around. That should have been moving the Patriots back there. And so I thought there were a few ball don't lie moments that came for the Steelers, by the way. I think we could also say TJ Watt's a big winner after the play on fourth down where he clearly gets held. And that's the only reason Drake May is able to escape and keep the game alive on his scamper right afterwards. He then gets a sack in a big way. The Steelers get another big way to end the game. I think the Steelers I think the Steelers were able to answer in some big moments despite adversity being thrown their way by things that were outside of their control as well. So give me Brandon Echols as a winner, not one that many people thought coming into this week.
Double C, I love that answer. So do a lot of the people watching and commenting. That was a great answer. 6 total tackles for Echols, that 1 TFL. Hey, I don't think the officiating crew from Oklahoma Auburn yesterday was officiating the game today up in New England. Possibility, but I just don't think that's the case. Steelers overcome those missed calls. Echols overcomes those missed calls. And now we get to see if we need to overcome Ben's winner from the Steelers today.
Yeah, man. I mean, Brendan Echols is a great one. I just think about the play made there at the end too. I mean, those are talk about winning plays. You know, the red zone interception and that tackle. I mean, that right there. But I'm going to go on a kind of a undercover one, if you will. Jabril Peppers. I thought he had a really solid game today. Was a lot more involved in the defense, forcing that fumble in the hole against his former team too. Had to feel good for that guy. I mean, you definitely feel good. You get the team that cuts you and you go and you force a fumble and they're building to throw it in their face, so to speak, obviously. But I think he was good. I think that shows you what he could be, at least a little bit of taste of what he could potentially be for this Steelers defense. The guy that's not afraid to get up there in the hole, stop the run. And I thought they moved him around a good bit today. But I think we got a taste of what I think he can provide. And I think only going to get better too as some guys get healthy, obviously. But I think Jabril Peppers is a winner for me today. I thought he had a great game, a lot more time out there on the defense. And I think he made some meaningful plays. Obviously, you think about that forced fumble too.
2 solo tackles for Peppers, 6 total. All right, Steelers won the game. It's winners and losers. We don't have to necessarily call this player a loser. I just want to be clear to everyone watching and listening. It's just, they weren't at their top performance. Okay, so Wayne,
just to be clear, Tyler's calling everyone losers that we're about to name here.
Well, that's funny because I just feel like I clarified that that's not what I'm doing. But that's funny, Chris. That's funny, Chris. Yes, I'm calling everyone a loser here, including the 3 of you guys on this show. Everyone except for me. Big L. Big L. Hey, Steelers get a big W. Wade, who was your guy that maybe didn't reach that full potential here in Foxboro today?
It's more of just the O-line. I can't.
Dang.
It's still. I'm running out of. They're young. I'm running out of. It's a work in progress. They are losing the line of scrimmage. They're letting the defensive front play and dictate to them. You get those little 1 or 2 runs, as Chris alluded to, were great early on, where Warren kind of, found his way through to make some yards. But when I watched the game, just as a viewer, they're losing the line of scrimmage. They're getting pushed back. The guys are having to negotiate where they're going to go the whole time. It's not like they hit the hole and then pop into the secondary and they start from behind the line of scrimmage because there's so much traffic in the back. So I'm still looking for a step forward in their attitude and physicality.
Well, I'm crossing my fingers for that offensive line because maybe they need Wayne Gandy to just step in there for them and show them how it's done.
No, you throw me on my back at this point in my life.
Hey, we don't need that. We don't want that. We need you here for this show twice a week. Chris, who's your loser from the game today?
I think Peyton Wilson's got to be it. He gets pulled from the starting lineup, and on the first drive of the game, Cole Holcomb punches out of the ball, forces a fumble that helps set the tone, and then on the second Patriots touchdown, I mean, I still have to watch the all 22 to be sure about it, but there was just a play where I thought that he clearly just let the tight end just walk into the end zone, and you see Patrick Queen being like, "Dude, my guy," and just I think that's where Peyton Wilson. I think he's thinking a little too fast right now for the game. I think that he's trying to process and do too much, and it's leading to some things. And that's why they put Cole Holcomb out there for some key plays. And it's a shame too, because like on the play that Cole Holcomb really messed up on the 4th and 1, where he's out in space against, and he's in position. The Steelers called this play perfectly to defend it. He just whiffed. He kind of over pursues his angle and just trying to play in space. That's something where Peyton Wilson normally plays pretty well. And so it's just a little frustrating to see Peyton Wilson making those kind of mistakes. Now he does recover the fumble forced by Cam Hayward in the end zone. That was a huge play for him. But if I was to pick at someone right now without doing my all 22 review, I would right now just say Peyton Wilson, but I'm sure there'll be some others when we take a closer look at the game.
Yeah, and somehow Peyton Wilson finishing with 7 total tackles, 5 solo. Holcomb 6 total, 5 solo. So he was up there on the stat sheet, but sometimes the stat sheet is not representative of the overall performance. So, Chris, looking forward to the breakdown throughout the week here on your Locked On Steelers Daily Podcast, as always. Ben, who gets the L for you?
I say the biggest loser for last here, right?
hey, I mean, someone's got to be it, okay?
I'll take the fall. Honestly, you know what? I was thinking Peyton Wilson as well, but I'm just going to throw it out there. Caleb Johnson. I mean, boy, is he in timeout. I think he, I think he having to earn his way back onto the field. We saw it today. I mean, the uniforms. It's going to be an easy job for whoever does laundry for the team, man, because that uniform is crispy white after today. But I think just that's a tough one for him, not get an opportunity to come back and respond at least the next game. And I'm sure he will have his opportunity at some point this season. But I think it's got to be him in that sense too, because, I mean, boy, is he in the doghouse still, and he didn't get a chance to go out there and redeem himself. But yeah, Peyton Wilson's I think he's just having a really tough start to the season, to be frank. And I think Chris even mentioned, I think maybe it's a lot between the ears, maybe overthinking some things. And I think, having Cole Holcomb back, and shout out to him too. His recovery road back to playing football is tremendous, and to see him making meaningful plays for the Steelers is awesome. But I think he could use that as an asset to get Peyton Wilson going, hopefully. But I think, it's been a rough 3 games for him, and I do think it's a little bit more between the ears, if anything else.
Chris, I'm curious, what was something you heard during media availability this week? I know Terrell Austin was all loud and angry and boisterous about, maybe getting the defense fired up. Was there something that was said that was executed here on Sunday, or something that was talked about that didn't really happen here in Foxboro today?
Well, I'll tell you what, I thought their ability to get pressure from different looks really shined through in this game. And I think that there were some times, I got to watch all the tape, because again, there's a lot of things that happen so fast, and football's such a big game with 22 guys moving at the same time. But I thought that there had been, like, a lot of people that were criticizing the Steelers defense were saying, "Oh, it's just the same defense. It's just so bland. There's no creativity." And I'm like, that's not what's going on.
Are you mocking me?
A lot of heat.
Sorry, are you mocking me? Was that person? Are you impersonating me there?
Oh no, that's just the average Steelers fan on Twitter. But my thing was, like, people were saying it was the same thing. I'm like, you're not watching the same game I am, because they're starting to twist in all these different directions. There's so many different blitz looks this year. They had the 4th highest blitz rate going into this game. I bet that might be even a little bit higher after this win, because they were sending heat from all angles. I think the biggest difference was on some of the downs, they were able to get the right coverages behind it to mix well with them. And I think that's the problem that they've been going through. I even asked Terrell Austin about this, because I got the question where he was kind of explosive about the deep crosser question that was brought up there. But when I was looking at the tape, I was just seeing, like, hey, TJ Watt's a step here, but Jalen Ramsey just lets this guy get inside on this play, and that kind of spoils the pressure. Or Patrick Queen's a step here, but this guy gets open just at the wrong second. So I was sitting there thinking, like, man, like, it just feels like there's something going on there. I think that on some of those sacks, you saw at least better initial coverage. No secondary can run with an offense forever. Like eventually someone's going to break open or a quarterback's going to find the guy he wants to get the ball to. But there were several times where you saw the pocket collapse, the pressure get there. And that was more of the kind of Steelers defense that this defense is supposed to be. I know like you with Jalen Ramsey, some people are like, where was Jalen Ramsey? I'm like, well, Jalen Ramsey probably wasn't getting targeted because I think he was doing a better job. But I want to look back at the film and see how many more times on third downs was Ramsey specifically in man coverage, wiping out his man in coverage, because last week the Seahawks went after him because he was allowing inside leverage on plays. I did not see that happen at all in this game. And again, I have to review the tape, but I think that's my big thing that I saw, that I asked about, questions about, and saw a different factor in this game, and it helped them in some of those turnovers.
It certainly did. Thanks, Chris. And now the Steelers look ahead to a game in Ireland. Should be really cool next week against the Vikings. We will be previewing that game and what the Steelers need to do against a very tough Minnesota team. Both teams now 2-1 after wins here in week 3. Again, that's next right here on the Steelers Squad Show here on the Locked On Podcast Network. But first, the NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I personally love using FanDuel because it fits however I like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, even jumping in live as the action is unfolding. It makes every game more exciting, whether I'm watching my Steelers or just keeping tabs on my fantasy football lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to my Sunday. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, back here on the Steelers Squad Show, Christopher Carter violently typing his game story. Wonder what he's writing. I guess you'll have to read it in the Post-Gazette. I mean, you're not going to read it now because that's not how it works. You'll have to read it later. The Steelers now 2-1. The Vikings 2-1 after steamrolling Cincinnati, a Joe Burrow-less Cincinnati Bengals squad. Ireland, I'm looking forward to this one. 8:30 a.m. kickoff here in the States, so a local time, so 9:30 if you're on the East. But I think it should be fun. Cork, it's just everything that makes this global game that much cooler as the NFL continues to play these games across the pond. Are the Steelers going to be ready for this Minnesota team, Wayne?
I think so. I think, they've had 3 tough games here to start the season. Minnesota kind of flying under the radar in a sense. I think people felt like they were going to fall off a little bit this year with all the couple of changes they made. Now J.J. McCarthy is out. But is this Carson Wentz's Geno Smith moment? Was a starter. He was looked to be leading his team, and now he's found himself being a backup here. He's only about 32, 33 years old, so he's not an old quarterback as far as, the late years of the 30s. So now he has a lot of talent. We have Justin Jefferson, somebody can make it easy. I think he threw for 14 to 20, 200-some yards, 2 touchdowns today, very efficient. So I think this Viking teams, it will be another test of an even match game. I don't look at either team as having an advantage. I think they're evenly matched.
Yeah, who would have thought? Carson Wentz, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He did get sacked 3 times. So it should be – I'm excited. Chris, is this one that you've had circled on the calendar just because of where it's being played?
Yeah, I mean, one, I'll be in Ireland, so that'll be a lot of fun. 2, in general, I kind of like the direction that the Vikings as an organization are going. I don't know if J.J. McCarthy's the guy himself, but in the trenches on both sides, they're a good team. Brian Flores, of course, former defensive assistant for the Steelers, went there to become a D coordinator, kind of adopted the Pitt defense mindset with the way he plays quarters coverage there now, and they look pretty good because of it. But the one thing I do think about, though, whenever I watch a team blow up the Bengals, I kind of think about, man, that defense is terrible. And then also in this game, Isaiah Rodgers with not just 1, but 2 defensive touchdowns for the Vikings in that one. Then they won 48-10 over the Bengals. Sometimes, this is purely intangibles, but in nothing that's like behind actual football analysis. But sometimes, like, man, maybe they spent a little too much on their points on scoring points this week. Maybe they could lighten it up next week. But I look at these teams. I think the Vikings have more veterans developed in the trenches the way the Steelers are trying to get right now. But I think the Steelers have the veterans as far as the playmakers, whether it's TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, Ramsey, Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf, and honestly, maybe put Calvin Austin in that situation in that as well. On that touchdown at the end, I mean, you could tell that was something that Aaron Rodgers knew he could get. He was just like, hey, run that stutter step, get him to hold for just a second. You get behind him, I'll put it right there for you. I know the Steelers offense. A lot of people think that they need a number 2 wide receiver. I really do think that Calvin Austin, and if they throw the ball a little bit earlier in some of their down and distance plays, I think that there's more to be had with this passing offense. So this will be a good game, but I think the Steelers have been ready for each of their games. They had some crucial mistakes at some wrong times last week against the Seahawks, but they came out, they won a tight one against the Jets. They won a tight one this time around. If they win a tight one in Ireland, will anyone say, well, that doesn't count, so they're not 3-1? I don't think so.
Could have some Rodgers on Rodgers crime next week. If you're a Steelers fan, hopefully not. Hopefully it's the one side, the Aaron Rodgers crime on Isaiah Rodgers. Andrew Polishenko says, still no run game. O-line does not look to be getting better. Flores is licking his chops. Ben, if you're Brian Flores, are you licking your chops right now, looking ahead to taking on the Steelers offense in Ireland?
It's gonna be a fun one, man. These specialty games, like you mentioned, are cool, and obviously the ties that the Steelers have to Ireland are going to be awesome. I think one of the bigger storylines for the week is just going to be JJ McCarthy's health, obviously. But even if he does play, I love the Steelers against young quarterbacks. I mean, Drake May had a pretty good day today, but I mean, they got after him a little bit, and we sasaw what happened when they did. And I think JJ McCarthy's not a rookie, but really is a rookie if you think about actually playing. But I think that's a fun matchup, especially with Brian Flores. Obviously, you used to being in the building, and so that we always make more of it than what it is. He's going to show up to do his job. I'm more interested to see how these teams adjust to the environment over there, if you will. You're flying internationally. How do you adjust to this jet lag play a factor in it? What are you doing to combat that? Those sort of things. I always find them unique. I just think it's a lot different than hopping on a jet and going to Pittsburgh or Minnesota. You're going across the pond here. So I think it's a fun thing to monitor who adjusts well. But I think it's a fun early season matchup. To have it in Ireland is awesome. But I think the Steelers are still finding their way. And so it's going to be fun to see what they bring to the table on Sunday. I think one thing they got to get better at on defense is getting off the field on third down. I mean, that was one thing today that I think was just giving them fits. I mean, I think in the first half, the Patriots were 5 of 8 on third downs. I mean, you think about their fourth down efficiency, 4 of 5. Granted, the one was the game-winning play. They stopped the one they needed to, if you could obviously argue. But I think getting off the field on third down for this defense will be crucial for them moving forward, and the offense just continue to find that identity.
Patriots finishing 6 of 13 on third down today. Walter Worthy in response. Wayne, go ahead, and then we can go to double W here.
So we're just going to not talk about Chris Carter going to Ireland. We're just going to act like he didn't.
Well, I mean, we were going to get to it. We've got 7 minutes left of the show.
Okay.
I figured we
Sorry for bringing that up.
Hey, Chris, when are you leaving? What airline are you traveling? When do you get there? What are you planning on doing? How many Guinnesses are you going to drink? Are you going to kiss the Blarney Stone? What are you doing over there?
Well, I am going a bit early. We got some friends that live in Dublin. Shout out to our friends Sarah and Barry. We'll be hanging out with them early in the week, and then getting to just taking the game on Sunday. We got some different trips and stuff planned. I ain't trying to put my full business out there because I don't need people stealing my information. But But no, we're getting out early in the week, spending some time, planning to see some sights. We have a fun week ahead of us, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. I'm jealous. Wayne, is that enough information for you without everyone knowing?
Make sure we address it, just in case.
Yeah, no, I'm glad, Wayne. That's why you're on the show. You keep us in check here. I needed to say something. All right, let's go to Walter Worthy because I thought this was interesting. Number 2 wide receiver is less important if you utilize your tight ends. I think, Chris, that was based off what you said about the number 2 wide receiver position. What do you think about that?
So I think the part of it is they need to put themselves in positions to use them more because, like, you had that seam pass to Jonnu Smith early on in the game. I was like, they need more of that. They need more attack vertically because the Patriots not only were sitting on the run, they were sitting on the pop passes, the sideways passes. Those are cool once you've backed the team off. But when you just look at how the Patriots were playing, they were like, please throw it to the flat, please throw the pop pass, please. Please run the ball right at us. We don't want you to throw the ball deep on us. And I think that you got to use these guys more. I think that, and listen, like they still were a factor in this game. Jonnu Smith caught that pass. Darnell Washington, just you put him in the end zone. He's either getting a touchdown or a penalty. And he got a penalty this week that set up a touchdown for Kenneth Gainwell. But I like that there's potential still there. I think they just need to work on the chemistry of this offense and when they want to pass versus when they want to run. This is an interesting game with the pacing of it because with all the turnovers, you'd think, oh man, like there were so many there were so many possessions. The offense though, they had the ball 3 times in the first half, and they had 3 an interception and 2 3-and-outs, and so in the third quarter, excuse me. And so if I'm looking at this, I say, man, like we got to be able to get what we're getting at the start of the game, at the end of the game, and just string that out a little bit more in the game. Again, like it's tough to argue. When you come out in the drive and you get 2 touchdowns to start the game and you finish the game with a game-winning touchdown. But there's going to be times where the defense doesn't get 5 turnovers. There's going to be times when the defense doesn't, just have a really good day. And, and you're going to need some of those more complete offensive days. Now, to be fair, they got one of them against the Jets. That was a day where the offense carried. But I think moving forward, you just want a little bit of consistency there, and passing on the early downs, including the tight ends, could be part of the answer.
The M-Rob said, Carter said, I got plans that I can't share with you right now because the haters will sabotage me. So
yeah, because there are a lot of y'all haters out there. Y'all be messing with me. Not this time. I'm going to get you ain't going to be knowing nothing. I'm just going to be enjoying my Guinness, my Jameson, and having a good old time in Dublin.
Man, I was fired up for Dublin, but now that Double C is going to be there and just hearing that, I'm even more fired up. Steelers better win in Ireland. They've got to do it for the Rooney family. If they lose, I don't know what the Rooney family is going to feel about that. They've got to win in Ireland, but they're facing an extremely talented Minnesota team with some quarterback questions injury-wise. Wayne, it's a big test. How does that O-line fare? I mean, the differing of schedules, different time zone, everything. How do you get prepared for a game like that?
Well, we talk about their youth up there, so let's hope they're just a little naive. We'll use that to what they're going into and just go over and approach it as another game. And now with these young men in college, they travel all around anyway for a lot of games, not just bowl games. They get to go different places, but I think it's going to be a good matchup for them, a defense once again. And they faced some big defenses already. We talked about that. The Jets defense, Seattle's, and then, they had personnel guys that they've had to approach and play. So now can they continue to make step forward in the run game will be key. As we said, you have to approach it kind of like a road game. So hopefully they get there, short nights. You don't get caught up in the hoopla and find yourself out at midnight drinking Guinness with Chris Carter. You find yourself in bed. Got to have some fun, but you got to remember what you're there to do.
Well, I would have been in bed until you said with Chris Carter. And then, I mean, I would say, screw that. I need to be there to experience that Guinness and that Jameson with double C. Hey, Chris, Ben, any final thoughts before we wrap up here on this Steelers Squad show?
No, I think it's gonna be a fun week just for that fact. Like you gotta enjoy these sort of games. It's morning football too, 9:30 for 8:30, 9:30 for us here in the States. It's unique. It's gonna be awesome to see all the different ties to the Rooney family in Ireland. This is gonna be a special atmosphere, a special week for the organization. So it makes you proud to be a Steelers fan and to cover the team, because you get these unique opportunities like this that are unique to the franchise. So it's a lot of people have this one circled, and it's gonna be fun, and it could be another great day to get another win. So hopefully they go do that too.
Whenever the Steelers lose, it's always Mike Tomlin's fault. He did everything wrong. He's stupid. He's dumb. He never did anything right. He was never a good coach. Bill Cowher's the only reason he ever has a Super Bowl, and the most ridiculous comments come out the woodwork. But when the Steelers win, Mike Tomlin, right? And it sounds like that's what's happening this week again, because Mike Tomlin, I saw a lot of people tweet that they were so upset at Mike Tomlin for calling that timeout on the 4th and short at the end of the game, when he's like, hey, but let's get the right call in there. Patriots were trying to go on the go. They were trying to keep the momentum going. He says, nah, let's stop that. Let's adjust. Let's be ready for what they're trying to do. And his defense made a big play in a big moment, and he made a smart call. I thought it worked out in that situation. Sometimes, but at the end of the day, the timeout itself isn't what won the game. The timeout gave his team a chance to win the game. That's all that coaches can do. The win still is on the shoulders of the players for the most part. They're given game plans. They have to execute those game plans. Brandon Echols, if he whiffs on that tackle, is Mike Tomlin any dumber for calling that timeout? No. He gave his defense a chance to reset. But I think that there's sometimes when the loss is amplified and people want to be mad about things, we yell and we shout and we point to things and common things to point out to make you sound smart, our scheme and coaching. And sometimes people just need to chill out. I think the Steelers, for the most part, have had decent game plans these first few weeks that have given them chances to win. It's been the slightest of margins that they've won, but I don't think there's anyone, and especially in the past several years, that wins tight games in situations where maybe people don't expect them to do than Mike Tomlin. So he at least gets credit for that.
And that's why you give Christopher Carter the final word. Well said.
By the way, if you're in Pittsburgh, check me out on The Final Word, Channel 11 WPXI, 11:35 p.m. I'll be on with Jenna Harn and our team there.
You know what? I teed you up for that. I said, let's see if Chris takes it, and he took it. Little drive right down the fairway. Little pitch and putt now situation. Little pitch and putt.
Alley-oop, if you will.
Yeah, alley-oop. Different sport. There's a lot of different crossovers, so to speak, Chris. Steelers 21, New England 14. Steelers 2-1. They have the Vikings in Ireland next week. It should be fun. That'll do it, though, for this edition of the Steelers Squad Show. A reminder, you can catch the audio of this show, Spotify, Apple Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts for audio. You can find it there. Also, be sure to like and subscribe. That helps us out. It helps Chris out with his daily podcast. I'm sure you're subscribing for Chris. Show us some love, too. We're having fun with this show. Hey, again, week 3, it's over. Steelers 2-1. He's Wayne Gandy. He's Ben Bobick. He's Christopher Carter. And I'm Tyler Feldman saying good night, and here we go. We'll see you Wednesday night to talk more about the Steelers and Vikings in Ireland.